Hey everyone, Happy New Year. It's Saturday morning and there's some things that I just wanted to go over with you. There's a lot of cool things happening this upcoming year, and starting next week there's going to be some changes. So I figured this is the best way to get out there all the information that may be needed just to get a start on this, and obviously we can have some more discussions over practice and even Sunday mornings as we're setting things up. So you all know that we just purchased a new soundboard and snake and system there. The sound people were able to come up this past week, John and Sue and Mike Austin, and also Mike Brown, who may be doing some sound for us as well. Unfortunately, Matt missed it because he is home dealing with a kidney stone, which is not cool. So make sure you keep him in your prayer or in your prayers. And Matt, we look forward to seeing you back, and just hope that pain is, diminishing some and you're able to just get back on your feet. You were missed. But so back to the soundboard. It's actually behind me. I don't know if you guys can see it. There it is, set up in our music room just to kind of do some programming and work on that kind of stuff. Probably doesn't mean much to a lot of you, but it's actually really cool. Steve spent a lot of time just learning the system and programming it, and has shared a ton with me, which is, it's overwhelming, but at the same time it's super user friendly. It's going to be awesome. All the sound people that were up here this past week, just, I know they're excited to use it, and it's going to give us some great new tools to be able to just have a better sound overall. It's going to save us tons of time on Sunday morning. It's just new updated stuff, which is just really cool. So how that affects you guys as musicians, one of the greatest reasons we chose this specific board is because we are no longer going to have to deal with monitor mixes that takes 20 minutes in the morning and constantly saying, hey, can you turn me up? Can you turn this person up? Can you turn this person down? It is no longer on the sound person's plate to do our mix for our in-ear monitors. We did purchase, they're on back order, what we have now, the square mixers that we plug in, we're not going to be using them any longer. We will have to use them for the next week or two, just because, like I said, the new ones we purchased are on back order. But what we purchased are these little black, like, belt packs. They're a couple inches long, maybe an inch square around, and they hook on your belt. One end hooks onto your XLR cable, which hooks into the snake, and then the other end you plug your headphones in, and that's all it is to your mixer anymore. There's not like a power cord, there's not all these little knobs you have to deal with, but there is an app that you will have to download either on your smartphone, or if you use a tablet. If you actually use a tablet on the stage on Sunday, I recommend you put this app on your tablet so you don't have two different devices you're dealing with. It's really cool. We're going to send you a link of a YouTube video of a guy explaining the app and how to use it and how to set it up. It's super user friendly. It's super easy, but basically what you're going to do is you're going to have a picture on your phone of your screen, and it's going to be labeled, so it'll say like Michelle's vocal, or female vocal 2, male vocal, Steve's guitar, John's guitar, keyboard, bass, drums, and you adjust up and down the volume at which you want in your ear. So while we're singing a song, through rehearsal, if somebody's too loud, you just pull out your tablet and you just bring them right down, and that's it. You have full control of your own monitor. It's going to just save time in the morning. You're going to have a more accurate sound for you, because when you're asking, you're actually hearing the change, you're making the changes yourself. So at first it may be a little overwhelming because it is different, it is technical, but again, it's super user friendly. You'll get super used to it, I promise, and you're gonna really see a great benefit to that, and it's just gonna be awesome. So I'm excited. So with that said, when we send you the link, which I will email after this video, I really, really encourage you all to take time and sit and just watch the video regarding the app. If you don't, when it comes time to Sunday morning and having to do this, it's going to be discouraging. It's going to be hard to understand. It's just something you need to do. If you're going to sing or play an instrument on Sunday morning, you have to watch this video prior to that. Also, and download the app to your device ahead of that. The cool thing about this board is that it works with Android devices and Apple products. The Personas board that we currently use and have been using for the last couple years actually had the same availability to do that, but it only worked with Apple products, and it didn't have a network within the board, so we would have to access Wi-Fi. This board has Wi-Fi built in with a router, so we will be connecting. Once you have the app, you will have to connect to the mixer board, and we will give you the password as well. So again, that'll happen on Sunday morning, but please have the app downloaded prior to showing up Sunday morning for service, and make sure you watch the video ahead of time. Now, there's a couple other things I want to talk about too, because once the video comes along, there are things that they talk about that don't have anything to do with us. I won't say most churches, a lot of churches who have the contemporary upbeat Christian worship that we do every week, they have a lot more things in their mix. They have a lot more things that they do. We've talked about this some. We've talked about wanting to do some of it, and we're working towards that, but we're not there yet, and that's totally okay. So there may be some terminology you're not familiar with. They talk about ambient mics. They talk about click tracks. They talk about pre-recorded pads, and they have multiple ones that they play, and he will demonstrate those things. And again, they don't really apply to us, but it is good to watch them and see even how they mix their own monitors, because it is something in the future we're going to be adding these things, hopefully, as we have more time and as we develop as a team. So I'm super excited about the things that we have the potential to do. And I'm also excited about where we're at, because I am so blessed by you guys as a team. It's amazing what we've accomplished in the last couple years, and just this new board is going to allow us to even accomplish so much more. On that note, I do want to talk about something else that you will see in the video as you watch it, and that is when they talk about a click track. This is something that we've talked about recently, and we said we were going to start, and we were going to have the drummers run the click track, and everybody was going to have it in their ear. This is something that Steve and I have experienced before, and Doug Washburn as well, with our previous church. They have been doing this for years. At first, I will admit, it's kind of annoying and distracting. Just having a constant metronome in your ear as you play, again, can just be distracting at first, but it is so necessary, and I'll explain why in just a minute. And it's something that we're going to get used to. So again, starting next week, that is something else we're adding to the new sound system and the monitor system, is we are adding a click track. I purchased yesterday a pedal that's going to allow me to basically stop it and start it and stop it within a worship set, and it'll only be in our ear. We're the only ones that are going to hear it. One of the benefits to this is something that we struggle with as a team, and every band struggles with, and that's why most bands have gone to this, is we have a hard time hearing each other on stage. There's a lot of times we have to stop a song and go through it and just remind each other to listen to each other and listen to the drums, because we're all in different tempos, and just off a little bit, it just creates kind of like a jumbled mess of a song. So the click track, it's going to be required for everybody to have it in their ear. As you play and use a monitor system, theoretically, you don't want everybody in your ear. You don't want to hear all three guitars, the keyboard, the drums, the bass, and all the vocals. You don't want that. It's too much within a monitor. It's too much. You're never going to have a sweet sound in your ear. It's never going to sound good if you have everything. So this allows you, one thing we always say is make sure you listen to each other. Above everything, above your music, your charts, or if you use sheet music, whatever you guys use, everybody uses something different. If you're looking at that and you're focusing on that, and you can't hear everybody, and you can't hear even the drums or just the snare or the toms, or if you have just the snare or just the toms in your ear, and one song maybe more on the hi-hat where he's keeping tempo, we're going to get off tempo. Having the click in your ear is just a constant metronome, a constant click. If you have that in your ear, even if you can't hear everybody else, you will stay on tempo because that's in your ear. Something else in the video that we are not going to do yet, and we may eventually get towards that, is the click track that is within the example that is shown in the video we're sending you when showing the monitor. Is there's also cues. You hear somebody saying chorus 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it just goes to the click again, and then a little while later, intro 1, 2, 3, 4. It counts you into the next part of the song. We are not going to do that for a couple reasons. First of all, we would have to have everything pre-recorded, and we'd have to play everything exactly as planned. you can't have the click track and go, and have somebody count in chorus when you want to do the bridge a second or third or fourth time. So we're not going to do that. So you can ignore that part, and we're not going to do the pre-recorded things because, again, it's just a lot of work. We don't have the ability at this time, with being a remote church who sets up and tears down every week, to just set up additional equipment. So that is something maybe in a few years we would love to do. It adds, people who are playing. Right now, we have our keyboard players really trying to focus on pads, sounds, more of a fill sound, which, if as you watch the monitor, that's something that's pre-recorded with a lot of bands. But that's the fill. That's what gives anything a foundation, is just having a constant kind of cool tone behind. We try to have our keyboards have a combination of keyboard and pad in their sounds, so they're emulating a couple different things where a lot of bands use pre-recorded. Even when we went to the Catalyst conference last year, the staff and some of the board members, live bands do that all the time. Hillsong and Gateway and Bethel, and if you go hear any big worship team, Carrie Job, all those people, and this is why we always say don't copy a YouTube video, because there's so many pre-recorded things going on behind the band that when you're trying to do the guitar solo or a certain lick that's there that a lot of times makes the song, if you don't have all the stuff behind it, it sounds ridiculously empty. And it's almost like building a house on top of a foundation. You can't put the siding on a house without, the wood there, and you can't build a house without a foundation there. It's the same thing in music. You can't put all those other things on top without the foundation. So there's a lot that we don't do. There's a lot that we would love to do that we're working towards. So as you watch this monitor example in this YouTube video of the new monitor system we're going to be using. Again, I don't want you to get distracted and discouraged by seeing all these other things that are happening in the video, because they don't pertain to us for the most part. I want you to focus on how to adjust things, and I want you to focus on when they are adjusting vocals and instruments. Check out how they do it. Just see how they mix things. See how it's just really cool, and it's a great example. So another thing that I kind of want to talk through, because it's something we've focused on and we've just come so far, but it's something that I feel is a constant confusion, and talking about it at practice and talking about it Sunday morning is great to have these conversations, and we need to continue to do this, but it affects everybody. And I think when you understand why we do something a certain way, I think it's easier to actually approach that, and it's actually easier to do it throughout the service. And that is when it comes time on a Sunday morning to actually worship, when we're on stage, after we're done setting up, after we do our sound check, after we run through everything, and the congregation's there, and they're sitting and they're just staring at us. It's our turn to now lead them in worship. And there's a couple of big things that happen for us that's different than what happens out there. The last series that we just went through on worship that Dan and Pam talked about was just awesome. I think it helped our congregation understand why we worship through song. And I think it helped a lot of the worship team as well just understand, what worship is really about through song. And I've said it before, and I've heard it many different ways, and Dan and Pam touched on it, and it's in articles. No matter where you go, worship should be, through music, should be an outward expression of what God's doing inside you, and you should want to share that. So as a team, when we're up on stage, we've talked about stage presence before, we've talked about flow, and we've talked about a certain aspect of it is a performance. And it doesn't mean that you're not worshiping, but your goal on a Sunday morning is to lead worship, is to set an example of what worship should be. So a couple things that has to do with that, we talk about flow. I talk about constantly wanting to have music, and just, once it starts, it doesn't stop. From the first song to the third song, we never stop the music. And we've changed our set list, so the first three songs are always in the same key, and that means sometimes adjusting a song from a half step or a full step, from A to G or G to A or B flat to B. We're changing keys because we need to match the set. That's one reason a lot of people change keys, and that's why being able to transpose and play something in multiple keys is important. But for the flow purpose of that, I want to try to give an example of just an analogy, I guess, of what that means and why. And we're doing an awesome job doing that. I think everybody's got it for the most part. But the understanding of why and why, I get, that's something that I stress about. Steve and I, a few years back, had an experience where our pastor used to get so frustrated. And after we would lead worship, I was the worship leader and Steve was the band leader at a church. They're both positions at the church. And we would sit down every Sunday and he would sit down with us and he would say, you had 23 seconds in between when you ended this song and this next song, or you had 7 seconds when you, and it was such a frustrating meeting every Sunday because we knew he would have the count of exactly how many seconds was in between either talking and the song going. Even if there was talking, if there was 4 or 5 seconds after I was done talking where the music stopped, like it still wasn't okay. And he would get so frustrated with us and we would just get so mad and we would dread these meetings. And the thing is he never explained why that's so important. And we never got it until we started leading worship at Encounter. And we just, we've watched so many videos, we've reached out to other people, we've done a lot of research on other churches, and it finally makes sense to us. So I want to share with you the vision of why we try to do that. And I know that we can continue to do what we've been doing and maybe even get better at it. And it involves everybody, and it means everybody backs each other up, because sometimes we're not going to be ready to start the next song, or, oh crap, we want to change sounds and something happened. It happens with the guitar pedals. It happens with somebody being out of tune and they have to tune really quick, or the keyboard having to switch sounds, or they didn't change their paging so they can't what the first chord is, or there's just so many things that happens that distracts us from going to the next song immediately. And the analogy I want to give you on why it's so important from beginning to end to never stop the flow of worship. And what we're trying to do as worship leaders is engage the congregation to help them. We can't lead them into worship. We can't help lead them to have the Spirit fill them. So they're worshiping. They have to do that. But our job as worship leaders is to set an example and to help kind of, in a way, get them in the zone. Think about when you're driving or traveling and you're going down the highway, going 65 or 70, and you've got your cruise on and you're not even thinking about the gas pedal or the brake pedal because you're just cruising along and you are zoning out and you got music playing and you're just in your own little world. And all of a sudden, there's construction and you got cones and you got blinking lights, or there's a cop pulling somebody over, or there's, I know going to Elmira, there used to be a stoplight in the middle of the highway, partway between the valley and Elmira. And all of a sudden you have to focus on this one distraction, whether it's a bunch of distractions or this one distraction. You have to take your foot off cruise and you have to focus on going around people, or bumper to bumper you're stopping and going in traffic, or you see the light turning yellow on the highway way ahead and you got to stop and get off cruise and then start it again. No matter what the situation is, when you're in a zone and you're just zoning out and you're going along strong and you're in your own little world, one little distraction takes you out of that zone. And once you start up again, you're fine. I mean, nothing's wrong. You're driving fine, but it takes a while to get back in that zone because you're distracted and you're looking in your rearview mirror. You're just you have to get to that certain point where you hit the cruise button again. Worship is the same way. When people get engaged, they get in a zone. It's like the best way I know how to explain it. So they're kind of, they're zoning out, but they're worshiping. Their hands are raised sometimes, their eyes are closed, or they're just singing out. They're clapping, whatever their way to worship is. And there's many different ways to worship. There's not just one way. We want them in the zone. We want them, once they get there, to stay there. So by the time Dan comes up to start the message, they're just engaged already, and they're filled with the Spirit, and they're just anticipating that next thing that's coming, the way God's going to speak to them, and through Dan or through somebody else, whoever's speaking, or a bumper video, whatever it is. We want to get them in the zone, and we want to keep them there. So when it comes to music, the same thing happens. If there's an abrupt stop, if there's, we have, all of a sudden a song stops and there's a break, and then there's even a click in, Bob's clicking in or Doug's clicking in, and there's nothing behind that just keeps the flow going and keeps the zone going. Or if I stumble over my words when I speak, which is one of my biggest issues and one of my biggest things that I struggle with and I work on, is communicating without singing. That's why I always take advantage of Christina and Max when they're on the stage, because they're really good at that. So, even my speaking is distracting because it doesn't come out fluently, and no matter how much I prepare, it's going to happen. It's not something I'm good at. If the music breaks, if Even if we're sustaining something and then there's a click in, or if we're, somebody's noodling on something and the next song comes and it's not even at the right time. You don't wait for a phrase to end. It's distracting. It pulls you from it. So worship flow is so important to me, and I wanted you to kind of get a picture of why I struggle with that, and I stress about that so much. And again, I'm the responsible party probably at least half the time that breaks that flow, because I struggle with talking, or I plan on talking and then I don't because I stop myself, because again, it's one of my insecurities and one of the things that I'm not good at. So when we talk about worship flow, one of the things we want to try to do is, if you notice, if you look at Setlist Helper for the next, not tomorrow, but for the following week, if you look at it, and I think I've done every song except the response song so far, I've really put details within the chord chart. Piano starts by themselves, second time through, band joins. Verse 1, vocal only with just keys. Chorus, add vocals in unison and add this and, guitar, whatever. I've been very specific on how I want to start songs and kind of go through songs. And that's not, again, this is not something that's set in stone. That's not, it's this way and no other way. This is an idea. This is how I anticipate the flow to go. So if you see that the keyboard starts a song, as soon as we finish out that last progression on the last song, the piano is then going to start immediately the next song. Here's the coolest part and where the click comes into effect. As soon as we finish that last song, I'm immediately going to change the click, and it's just a pedal I push. You're not even going to see it happen. The click in the ear, the metronome, is going to automatically change the tempo to the BPMs for the next song. So whoever is starting that next song knows the exact tempo. A lot of times, if the second song is a big song and we should have like a full intro, I'm still going to have just one instrument start that song, whether it's a piano or it's the guitar, or maybe even like a bass thing every now and then would be kind of cool. Just one instrument. And after they go through one progression, then the full band will come in big. So this helps a couple things. We never have that break with a click in between songs throughout a set. And the tempo is always going to be there for whatever instrument is starting, and it just will help create that flow. So if you are one of the musicians, I highly encourage you, when you are at home and you are practicing and you are going through the songs, have a metronome loud. If you have to put it through a speaker, you can we can put it on the computer and have it come through the computer and sit with the guitar or whatever. There's lots of different ways to do it, but having a metronome while you practice is going to become essential, because that's how Sunday mornings are going to work. So another thing that we've talked about before, and I've had people ask me and question, is that's going to be distracting for us on the stage. How are we supposed to worship with these different things going on and all these different things to think about? And this has been a discussion that I have had with a few people, not just with a click track or metronome, but just even focusing on little things and just having to think ahead. Sunday should be about worship. When we get there Sunday morning and we're on stage, we should be 100% worshiping. And I'm with you 100%. What you're doing is worship. But part of your worship is an act of service. And that act of service is to create a sweet, constant sound that brings glory and honor to God to help others be drawn in. So when it comes time for Sunday, your worship is serving. It may not be full-fledged, 100% connected with the Holy Spirit, just allowing yourself to worship. You have to listen to each other. You have to be able to hear, if the drum starts doing a build and we're not planning a build there, guess what? We're going to follow the drums because we all want to be together. You have to listen to each other. If whoever's leading a song says repeat the chorus, and then you're going to repeat the chorus. You have to think about these things. The musicians have to think about the transitions and, make sure they're listening to everybody. There's a lot that goes on a Sunday morning service that is distracting for us on stage. So again, when you are serving on Sunday morning on the worship team, your worship is your service. I'm not saying don't get caught up in worship, because I do all the time. When I'm in the middle of the song, my eyes are closed, my hands are raised sometimes. I'll take them off the instrument. I don't care, and I will worship because I'm leading. I want people to see me worship because I want them to follow suit. I want them to feel free to just step out in faith and just release themselves to the Holy Spirit and let worship happen within them. But while I'm doing that, I'm thinking about the next thing that's coming up. I'm thinking about, okay, after I sing this, they're, in my head, I'm thinking they're really singing this. They're really singing out in this chorus. And we probably should end it. And I'll look at the clock and then I'll look and see what time it is. And do we have time to repeat it a couple times? And all these things are going on in my head while I'm worshiping. All these things should be going on in your head as you're worshiping. You should be paying attention to what the congregation is doing. If they're singing along, I'm probably going to have them sing a chorus again. I might extend the song. If you look at the clock and see that, oh, we really should be wrapping it up, I'm probably going to wrap it up. Watch me for lead. Listen to the drums. While you're on stage, you need to focus on each other. You need to focus on what's going on so that there's a smooth flow and we can keep worship happening out in the congregation. And also, with that said, one thing I really, really need to encourage you to do is you need to spend time alone with God throughout the week. Not just reading the Bible and praying, but remember, you have been gifted. That's why you're on this team. You've been gifted with a gift of music. And that is a way that you connect with Christ, is through worship. So I encourage you, if you're somebody who plays an instrument and doesn't sing, sit at your instrument and just play. Pick a chord progression or a song and get the chord chart away from you and don't look at anything, and just know that you're going to play G, C, D, and E minor in any type of progression, and an A minor throw in every now and then. And if you just play and you close your eyes and you worship within your instrument throughout the week, you're going to be better prepared when it comes on Sunday because you spent time with Christ worshiping in the gift that He gave you in a way that He has called you to worship and serve Him. Same thing vocally. Sit down and listen to worship and sing along. Sing at the top of your lungs. It doesn't matter. You need to spend time with Christ in the gifts that He gave you. Not just so you get better at your instrument, so that when it comes on Sunday you're better playing, but that's the reason we have these gifts, is to worship Him and serve Him. And our gift is being used as service on Sunday morning. So make sure you're spending time in worship throughout the week. And just taking time with God and Christ, and of course pray and read your Bible and do your devotions. I'm not saying don't do that. Just make sure you focus on the gift that He gave you, because He wants you to serve Him and worship Him that way. So I know I kind of gave you a ton of stuff, and I don't hide the fact that communication, speaking wise, is not my strong point. So if I rambled and went off on one side when I should have been focused on this one thing over here, I apologize. I hope you were able to follow me. Again, I just wanted to introduce a couple things that we're going to be changing that we need to be prepared for starting next weekend. So again, I'm going to send an email out. It's going to have a link to a YouTube video which demonstrates how we're going to use your monitors, and then there's also going to be a link where you can go and just which will show you the app that you actually need to download to your device. If you do not have a device to download, let me know. I do have an extra tablet that I'm going to put the app on as well, and I'm going to have it every Sunday for people to use. In the meantime, we'd like to our goal is to actually purchase a few tablets for the worship team, because our goal is to ultimately go to tablets for everybody, and it's something we use for church. So maybe once we sell the old board and get some money back in our budget, we can look at getting a few of those to just have on hand. But again, this works with Apple. This works with Apple products, Android products. If you have any questions, before Sunday, don't hesitate to call me, text me, call Steve or text him. He did all the research on this. He did all the training on this. He knows a lot more than I do when it comes to the technical stuff. Don't hesitate to reach out if it's a simple question. You can wait till practice on Monday or church on Sunday morning. Some things you're not going to be able to do till Sunday morning, which is actually connect to the board. Once you connect one time every Sunday, once you go, you won't, basically just making sure your Wi-Fi is connected to the right Wi-Fi. Your app's already there. You should be fine. So again, lots going on, lots of changes. I know I've rambled, but I'm super excited about the new things that are happening super quick, and things that may come. I'm excited to see you guys all. I hope you have an awesome, awesome New Year's Eve, and I'll see you Sunday. All right, later.